Dr. Epstein, the McCartney in the house. Let me strap on here and check my levels. The McPods, Jesse Clayton with our intro song there. Let's see. Bluetooth. What? Huh. Oh, there we go. Bluetooth. AirPods in there. Plugged in. Coming to you live. 420 Live with Jeff Kravitz. How's everybody today? It's Thursday, if you're keeping track. If you're interested to know what day it is. I know a lot of people don't care. What day is it? I don't care. I just want to be able to go outside. And I just want to go hang out with my friends. Unfortunately, none of that can happen. So we're here because of that. I'm here every day at 4:10 to distract you from the minutiae. I'm sure you've all seen the news today. You see what an idiot we have running the show. We're not in good hands. Do not believe anything coming off the TV. If the guy tells you not to wear a mask, wear a mask. If he tells you to go out, stay home. If he tells you to go to church, pray in your room. So don't listen to this guy. He's not out. He's not in it for you. He's in it for him and his rich friends. And the sooner we always realize that, the sooner we vote him out of office, the better we're all going to be. But I digress. I don't want to get political. I'm here to distract. We're going to get very serious today on a couple matters. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to get serious today. I know we've had a lot of fun over the past 3 weeks coming to you, bringing you all kinds of fun guests in the music industry and stuff like that. But, you know, I've had a very diverse career as a photographer, and I've tried to work for as many different people as I can. And some people I don't even work for. I do it because it's a great cause and I'm into what they're doing and where they're coming from. I wouldn't say that was my first reaction when I started working with PETA, because they were incredibly polarized back in the 90s. And I pulled up a picture here from one of the first events I did for PETA. And it's Alec Baldwin on a horse. Kim is over his left shoulder there, and he was not happy with photographers popping him on the horsey there. But we had to go at him, and you know, Alec's been an amazing spirit and a huge supporter of PETA, and that's 1996. So these aren't bandwagon people. These aren't people that are getting on the wagon before that. But in 1998, I believe it was, I was in Spain, in Barcelona, to shoot the MTV European Music Awards with my wife, Julianne, and my good friend Todd Phillips was going out to dinner, and we would always get together and eat. And he said, I'm going to invite a friend tonight. He works at PETA. So I'm like, okay, great. And, you know, I'm not really thinking or processing anything. We get to dinner. I'll have the veal. Last time I ordered that with Dan. But he, you know what, in all fairness, he didn't say a word. He didn't, you know, it didn't faze him at all. He's dealt with meat eaters all his life, and his job is to kind of educate everybody. And my last meal with Dan and my daughter and his new husband, we went to a vegan restaurant, Sage, over in Culver City. So I'm open to all kinds of food, and I'm trying to be as healthy as I can. And Kiki, my daughter, is a veggie, vegan-y kind of girl, and she's really changed her diet and her look. She's lost a lot of weight. She looks fantastic. She's doing the yoga every day in the other room. But Dan is an author. I want to show you his book here in case you want to pick up some reading material. Committed. And Dan Mathews, a rabble-rouser's memoir. Dan is not exactly the kind of guy that goes quiet into the night. He carries a big stick. He wields it freely, and he just goes about changing the world and changing our world. I see a lot of mixed comments. I am not going to pull punches today because some people love PETA and some people don't. And Dan knows there's love and hate on each side. But to make a difference and to get into people's lives like Dan has takes a lot of balls. And I want you to meet my friend Dan Mathews because he's got them. Hello, Dan, bringing you in.
Hey, how's it going, Jeff?
For some reason.
Nope. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there.
Okay, good.
No, a little bit more.
Can you hear me okay?
No, I think you're level. If you look on your sound, maybe.
Let's see
If you
here.
sound there, your input level.
How's that?
No, it's still
better?
very low. But hold on, let me turn up on my end. Oh, that's a problem. It's me.
Okay.
There. Now I hear you fine.
Great.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well, thanks. No downtime for us at PETA. Of course, the whole COVID disaster came from meat markets, and so we're working overtime trying to get people to put two and two together and realize that there is so much death and suffering that comes out of the meat trade. Aside from what happens to animals, it impacts us. So we're kind of hoping that people dig a little deeper this time and have a little soul searching and realize how killing animals is really killing us. This is my 35th year with PETA. I started with PETA in 1985, right after I finished with college in DC. And of course, being gay and in the 80s, going through the AIDS crisis, we got HIV from originally from primates being eaten in Africa. We have Ebola through the same reasons. SARS came from slaughterhouses in China. So all of these pathogens, the ones that creep into human beings and end up wiping us out, are all from us eating animals. And I'm so glad to see that Beyond Burger and vegan eating is going through the roof. And I really do predict that this pandemic is going to make people reevaluate meat. It's really not worth it having this all the suffering that happens to animals. Of course, all the devastation that happens to our environment through the meat trade. And now we realize through human health, through our own these pandemics, which only happen because we capture, confine, and eat animals.
So this is I was reading an article you sent me, and it's the 5th pandemic we've had in 45 years, was it? Or less than that, from bats.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. So in the wet markets, so explain to everybody what a wet market is. Because I think people see it and they don't really get it.
Well, some people used to think with wet markets, maybe that's like a bathhouse. No, that's the old school version for wet market. Nowadays, a wet market or a live animal meat market is they exist not only in Asia but across Africa, and there's more than 80 in New York. It's where animals are brought alive, caged, and confined, and they shit all over each other. They bleed all over each other. People want fresh meat, so they see the animals butchered. They pick out which bird they want, which pig they want, which bat they want, which frog they want. And all these animals who would never have, we all know that, you can avoid a cold by not getting sneezed on. You can avoid sexually transmitted diseases by not being bled into or come into. Well, these animals are bleeding all into each other. And that enters us when people either wipe their hands from the bloody mess or when we eat it or from the packages. People don't realize that even salmonella in the U.S., most of the meat packages we buy, over 90% of chicken packages that you buy in the supermarket have traces of shit. Same with pigs. This is what causes salmonella. So, and in fact, it's gotten so bad in the U.S. that there was just a big expose on 60 Minutes in January. The pig industry no longer allows government health inspectors inside slaughterhouses because they have identified so many that spawn salmonella and other diseases that they have, unlike in live animal meat markets or in Wuhan where people can take pictures, in America, the same things happen. It just happens behind closed doors. The difference is, of course, a lot of these animals that they are trading in live meat markets in Africa and Asia are wild animals, exotic animals who have their own unique viruses that don't have the opportunity to mix with human viruses and with human beings. But anyone who's seen the movie Contagion with Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon, that was the same exact situation as what happened with COVID-19. It was bats crapping in a slaughterhouse, the meat moving on to people. And that's, if we didn't eat it, we wouldn't have these diseases.
Right. So it's become a real problem. And people think America is a lot different than everywhere else in the world. And it's really not. It's like the practices could be even worse in some places. Exactly. We're in a perfect storm right now. you talked about exotic animals, and I'm going to shift us over to the king of exotic animals now, where everybody seems to be talking about the Tiger King.
Right.
And you know, it's really amazing that someone like Carol Baskin would pass herself off as a conservationist. What is your reaction when you see someone, when you see that?
Well, I think they did a disservice to her, as well as to the issue of sanctuaries versus collectors. We have been going after Joe Exotic for 20 years at PETA. We've had whistleblower calls since even before we ever heard from Carol. I think that the show was very titillating, obviously, because they were able to play out some of the quirks of both Joe Exotic as well as Carol and her husband. But the big thing that people need to understand is those big cats that Carol has were dumped on her by circuses that went out of business, or by cruel roadside zoos, or by irresponsible owners. Whereas Joe Exotic bred all the animals, sells the baby animals, profits from them. Most of it is through posing for photos with these animals, offering people the chance to pose with exotic animals to make a quick buck. I'm very happy to say that today in Virginia, we became the newest state to ban contact between humans and big cats as a result of outcry from exposés, as would happen with Tiger King. We just have to realize that there's a lot of real nasty, scurrilous individuals out there who take advantage of animals for their own personal profit. And Joe Exotic is obviously the poster boy of bad behavior for somebody who doesn't care about animals and just seeks self-promotion. I think we stand with Carol. I think that she's done a great job of doing the best with a nasty situation of looking after these animals who were dumped and became kind of refugees in this country where they don't even belong.
Right, but there's more in captivity in the United States than in the wild, which is kind of crazy.
Because we breed them for profit. That's the only reason. We breed them not only for profit, but there's a lot of places that breed them for canned hunts. People that want to say they shot a tiger and have the head mounted on their wall, they actually go to places in Texas or other states and let a tiger be released from their cage, shot, and then mounted on the wall. Not just tigers, but lots of wild animals. Canned hunts is a whole industry. I know that boggles the mind, but Trump's kids go trophy hunting, and there is a whole underbelly of people. I don't know, maybe they just have a really tiny dick that they feel like they've got to shoot a giant wild animal and mount it on their wall to make themselves feel like they matter. I don't understand the mindset that goes into that, but it's certainly something that's passing with each generation. And I think now, as people learn more about it, even through things like Tiger King, which is so titillating to watch, I think people have a different view of that whole underbelly of American culture, people that profit from exotic animals.
For sure. Well, we had Tippi Hedren back in the day, and she had Shambhala out here, and I used to go shoot their concerts and stuff, and that was a beautiful preserve also. And that was the same thing, where she took different animals that people couldn't house at their houses and stuff like that anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. There's some really terrific places. We work all the time. We have been able to close down a lot of circuses. Everybody knows that PETA was very involved in shutting down Ringling Brothers after 150 years. And those animals have to go somewhere. Ringling has a bunch of land in Florida where they keep their animals, but there's a lot of other shoddy circuses that just give up. And so PETA works with sanctuaries all over the world in placing animals that are, refugees from some of these nasty, abusive circuses.
So I was going through the old files, and I found a shoot that we did together, which was hold on, let me pull it up here. It was Eva Mendes. She was your fur. She was going to, rather go naked than wear fur. And I was reading online that this was the first year in 20 years that you didn't do the fur campaign during Fashion Week. What happened there?
30 years, actually. We started the Rather Go Naked Than Wear Fur campaign back in 1990 with the Go-Go's, and it became a huge sensation. We have since done campaigns with everybody from Pamela Anderson to Pink to Christy Turlington to Gillian Anderson. And it has had such a big impact that we've been able to convince most of the designers, even Prada, Versace, Gucci, Burberry, Michael Kors, who was a major holdout, have all decided to throw in the towel and no longer kill animals sometimes by the hundreds for a single fur coat. And as a result of that evolution in fashion, we have decided to stop the Rather Go Naked Than Wear Fur campaign to focus more attention on how animals are killed and skinned alive in the leather industry, and how they're mutilated in the wool industry, and how animals are killed in the exotic skins trade. And I think, people are starting, certainly young people have started to realize that we have to share this world with animals. We're not slaveholders of all the animals. They have as much a right to exist and to have their lives as we do. We have no right to kill them, to make them suffer. And I think especially now that there's been so many exposés about how animals have been killed, especially for fur, it shows the impact that PETA's had. And it's why we have over 7 million members now. This is our 40th anniversary, and I'm lucky to have been with PETA 35 years. And it always feels like we're just getting started, opening people's eyes up about what's happening to animals. Often, as you know, with the help of a lot of personalities: Alec Baldwin, Pamela Anderson, Bill Maher, Pink.
Yeah. How many times have you been arrested?
I stopped counting at 20. It's kind of like Rocky Horror. You forget after a while how many times. I did actually, I wrote a connoisseur's guide to the world's jails, where I rated each jail for food, hospitality, accommodation, whether they let you print for your mugshot or not. But now we've made so many advances that we don't need to get arrested as much. I actually miss that. I love disrupting things. I'm from the old school punk generation, where it was really fun to put your body on the line for things. So I do miss that, but it's great that we're having success.
Yeah, you've gone from disrupting runways to getting in the boardrooms with all these major fashion labels and being able to talk some sense into them. What's the problem with Kim K? Can't you get? She seems to be so compassionate about prisoners and everything else in her life. Can't you get her to get the freaking fur off?
From what I understand, she has renounced fur. She said she was no longer going to wear the real stuff, and she's only wearing fake fur. Who knows whether she can be trusted or not, but it certainly seems like a good step. I think fur now is like a cold sore. Nobody wants it, and nobody wants to be seen attached to it.
Yeah. And, you've had so many different, like, I was just going through all the events we've done together, and the celebs. Let's talk about some of them. Like, this is your partner in crime here. You would have thought you two were an item. I'm sure you've been linked as an item before everybody realized.
I know. It's great. It's great. Pamela and I have been best friends since the 90s, when she first joined PETA back in 95, I think it was. And I've been to all of her weddings. I've only been married once, but she came to mine, and she was the maid of dishonor at my wedding to Jack. And she's great. And it's fun traveling because she uses every opportunity to speak out for animals whenever she's got a gig. If it's in Finland, she'll call on the president of Finland to stop electrocuting foxes on fur farms, which is a big industry in Finland. We've gone all over the world together. I also serve as a cock block for her. If there's some guy that she's really not interested in, we can pretend that we're together. And so, yeah, from animal activist to cock blocker, I'm just thrilled to have that relationship with Pamela.
Yeah, she's one of a kind. This is an ad we shot for. It was a PSA you did with Andy Dick and that's
and Carol Leifer there. Yeah.
Yes, Carol Leifer. Yes, and Pam as the sexy cop. It's been so classic. Todd Phillips, our old friend here, is in Australia and saying hi. And
hey, Todd, how's it going?
He's saying he was surprised Siegfried and Roy or Mirage Hotel wasn't mentioned or called out in Tiger King. Any insight as to why? It seems like one of the highest profile examples of big cat exploitation. Thank you, Todd.
It's a great question, and it's something that occurred to me while watching Tiger King as well, because there's a scene in which he talks about his white tigers and how it's this unique breed. This is the same exact ploy that Siegfried and Roy took. They said that, come to Vegas, come to our show to see the white tigers. It's the only place you'll see white tigers, and we have to preserve this unique breed. They were genetically bred on purpose to be like that, just to attract tourists into a showroom. Luckily, they're no longer doing that, and it's a tragedy what happened to Siegfried and Roy with the tigers attacking them on stage. But it's no surprise to anybody who knows what these animals are like in the wild and what their basic needs are. But they were a perfect example of people who just want to cloak themselves around the majesty of these beautiful exotic creatures and profit from them with the animals suffering as a result. So It's a very good question.
They're big business. So, I mean, it's always fascinating when you're a little kid to see a tiger in anywhere, because you always read about them and see them in movies. Here's Joaquin Phoenix, who set the world on fire this year with his portrayal of the Joker, and then came to the Hollywood Awards season, made everybody change their menu to be vegan, vegetarian. Everywhere I went, it was like everybody was like, some people be like, "Wow, this is great," and other people like, "Wait, where's the beef?" Tell us a bit about Joaquin.
Joaquin is a total gem, and he's been involved with PETA since before he was a star. His brother River was one of our first spokespeople back in the 80s. And I remember first meeting Joaquin when he was about 12 years old. His voice hadn't even changed yet. And he was so sincere and such an incredible spokesperson and advocate for animals, early advocate for veganism, and continues to be one of our biggest allies. And he's just like family for PETA. He's terrific.
Yeah, he really shocked a lot of people with the way he was setting the carpet on fire this year, and also the way he was with these meals, calling them up and telling them, "Hey, you got to change your meal," and a couple days out too, not exactly weeks in advance.
And I think it's, it may seem shocking, but it's just not that big a deal. We can eat so many things. We can be more healthy through eating vegan. It's just, I think people, especially young people, realize it's just not that big of a deal to make this basic change. That saves animals, that makes us more healthy, that makes the environment livable. It's certainly the wave of the future, and it's just fortunate that there are people like Joaquin and Bill Maher and Pink and others who advocate for animals, so that it makes it a little more palatable for people to, back when I was a kid, back in the 80s, it was considered either an odd thing or an old lady thing or a hippie thing to be an animal rights activist. Now it is the most vibrant young person's cause that's out there. So we're making a lot of inroads. And I think anybody out there who's watching who has any questions, just inform yourself. Log on to PETA's website, PETA.org. We have videos, we have literature, things that you can look up that answer any of your questions. There's so many incredible documentaries now, Blackfish, Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy is another great one. Game changers for people that want to excel in with their fitness goals through being vegan. So it's just it's the time has finally come. It's a thrill to see that this time has arrived. It's a shame that these pandemics come along and have to slap people in the face with the reality, but eating meat is killing us as well as the animals.
Yeah, and now there's more options than ever. Like when you started as a vegan, it wasn't like there were options. You probably had so many meals where you're like, I'm just gonna eat the roll.
French fries and salad was my life for a long time, but it's changed now.
Yeah, it's almost gourmet in the way, and there's whole sections in the meat department cut out for vegan meat, and
yep.
It's a game changer. Talk about a little bit about this. Seems to be everybody's favorite activist with animals, and someone who's so passionate. And I'm talking about Charo. I have some friends that met her in Laurel Canyon. My friends up there, Jeremy and I'm spacing on the name, Kristen. They met her when they were dealing with some lost dogs, and they said she is unbelievable.
She's a true force of nature, Charo. She's so energetic. She's helped us fight bullfighting, which was actually banned in her home region in Catalonia in Spain a few years ago. She helped us get bullfighting banned from being aired on the national television in Spain, where it used to be aired every Sunday. She has been outspoken animal advocate. She's vegetarian for a long time. She helped us launch PETA's Spanish website. She's just a dynamo, and she never tires. Even after the tragic death of her husband last year, within a few months, she came back and was as active as ever, urging people not to waste a minute in their life. We've all got to speak up against cruelty. We've all got to be a positive influence on the world. I think she's just a gem.
Yes. How about here's a great 1, 2, 3. This is when we honored Linda and Paul came, and that's Chrissy Hind in the middle from the Pretenders, and Paul and Pam, prime Pam there too. That was her.
Oh yeah,
right there, so beautiful. Talk about Paul McCartney. He's probably one of the most famous vegan. He's vegan or vegetarian?
I think he's pretty much vegan.
Right. Talk about
he's vegetarian now. He's become more of a vegan.
Linda changed it probably in the 80s, right? When he became a vegan.
He contacted us, and we did this event in New York called Rock Against Fur back in 1988 with the Go-Go's and the B-52s and the Sugar Cubes. And it was a big sold out event. And he heard about it through a music promoter in New York. And actually, him and Linda called PETA and asked how they could help, how they could get involved. And they've been involved over 30 years now. And he has never, ever backed down from addressing these issues. I think his first thing was helping us get fur coats banned as prizes on Wheel of Fortune. He used to sway with then. He helped us stop General Motors from using animals in car crash tests. He has helped us stop Gillette from using animals in their product tests. He's been instrumental in so many PETA victories over the years, and he's just been a phenomenal supporter and a great role model, I think. And anybody who sees him live after all of these decades, he still displays so much energy and confidence and vibrance. And I think he's just the perfect vegan role model. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's something else, and what a talent. Now here's a picture of you with your partner. Now Ingrid was the boss. She's the boss.
Yeah, she's the founder and president of PETA. Yes. And
you're the senior VP, right? Is that your official title now? And then you got Bill Maher over there, who's incredibly also a huge supporter of PETA. You want to talk a little bit about Bill and how he helps?
You know, Bill says everything that people want to say but don't have the guts to say. And that's why he is the perfect PETA ally. He will put it to the carriage horse drivers. He will put it to the animal experimentation industry. He is just does not pull any punches. And Pink is very similar. She is unafraid to be bold. And I think that's the sort of person we gravitate to, is people who are not afraid to go for it. I mean, how much time do we have on this planet? You've got to use all of your time wisely. You've got to speak up against injustice. You've got to speak up against cruelty. And I think that's why PETA attracts people like Pink and Bill Maher and Paul McCartney. I think we live in a world where there's so many followers. There's not as many leaders as there should be. But I think that we all know in our heart right from wrong. And we all know that it's wrong to kill animals. And we all know that it's wrong to be cruel. And I think PETA has done a great job of being a cultural force in making people realize that, making people not give excuses for being cruel to animals. There's no reason to force exotic animals to perform. There's no reason to kill animals and eat them or wear them. We're against speciesism. That's our mantra. We believe that we are not higher or lower than other animals. We're all just neighbors on this planet, and we just have to learn to be better neighbors.
How's Pink doing? Have you talked to her at all? Because we know she came down with it.
I know. I haven't talked to her in probably 6 weeks, but I know she's been down for the count with COVID, along with her son. But she has been very helpful to us in speaking out against SeaWorld, speaking out against the cruelty to animals in the circus. She was one of the last stars in our Rather Go Naked Than Wear Fur campaign. I think she did her ad about 4 years ago. So yeah, she's great. And she's been involved with us now for 20 years herself. As soon as she hit the public eye, she wanted to identify with PETA as one of her main causes, because she appreciates how we are so outspoken and are not, we're not the sort of charity that comes at people with outstretched arms, begging for people to understand. We are the punk rock charity. We want people to see what the fuck is going on with animals and learn how they can make a difference and create a less cruel world.
Yeah, my friend Linda LaJoke has an interesting question. Are there any misunderstandings about PETA that Dan would like us to know?
Yeah, I think sometimes people say that we are against pets. We don't really use the word pet. We use companion animal, but we're not. We most people that are at the office and people that are PETA members, we have companion animals. We're against irresponsible people that have animals at home. People who leave dogs in a crate all day, don't walk them. People who have animals because they are amusing, but they don't really give them the proper time they need, socializing time that they need, or take proper care of them. So we want people to be responsible with their animals. So I know we have a lot of adversaries, and our adversaries will often, bandy things about that PETA's against pets or that PETA kills animals. PETA is a pro-euthanasia organization. We work with shelters across the country who have animals dumped at their doorstep who are too old, aggressive, or sick to be adopted. And so those animals, sometimes there is worse. Sometimes life is worse than death when you're a bedraggled animal like that. And PETA has always supported open admission shelters who take in any animal, no matter how old or how sick or how aggressive. And because PETA has this policy, some of our adversaries like to say that PETA kills animals. No, we are pro open shelters, open admission shelters. We don't want any animal turned away. There's this kind of old school way of looking at it called no kill, where people believe that every animal should be allowed to live. And all that means is that shelters turn down animals they can't adopt. And that's a crime. We can't have animals who are in such desperate need be turned away just because a shelter wants to keep their euthanasia numbers low.
Yeah. All right. Drew Katz has a question here about Steve Irwin. He was killed by a stingray. Did you find that ironic? And was he a conservationist or someone who took advantage of animals?
Steve Irwin was not much better than, he was like the Joe Exotic of the deep sea. He would do anything to get close to an animal, take a selfie with an animal, show how this animal was so fascinating only through the lens of him being close to this animal. And it really sets a bad example. And we've had a lot of campaigns urging talk show hosts, people like Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel, to not have exotic animal trainers on their show because it sets such a terrible example. These animals are not props. They're not, photo ops. They have a life of their own that doesn't involve being dragged into a hot, noisy, scary studio. And so I think, there's so much we can learn from animals and through nature shows where animals are observed without being fucked with. And that's our main point. So Steve Irwin set a bad example. It was a terrible tragedy, but not something that was unpredictable.
Well, him and all the guys like Jack Hanna, right, and all the talk show guys. Morrissey, here is a huge PETA guy. He had a PETA table set up. He bans all meat products at his concert. Meat is murder. Much respect. He's been at it and thank you, Joe Nichols, DJ Sparkles, for that question.
Yes, thanks, Joe. Morrissey was probably our first spokesperson when he came to Washington with the Smiths on the Meat is Murder tour in June of 1985. That's when I first met him, and that's when he first attached to PETA, and he has not gone anywhere since. He is still as much of an advocate. He shows slaughterhouse footage at his concerts. He is just an icon for animal rights, and he's still very much involved, and we're still very much in touch.
I love it. And Dan, Todd Phillips again, he wants to know about the new book and if he got another mention.
Hey, Todd. So my first book is Committed. It came out about a decade ago in the US and Australia and across Europe. And it's about how I got involved in animal rights, which was basically through being gay bashed when I was a kid. And I often had animals that I took home, that I took in from the streets were often my best friends. And so I really identified with animals at a very early age. My new book is about taking in the wildest stray animal ever, my mother, who got me into animal rights when I was a kid. And she was always a bit troubled. She was brilliant and hilarious, but it wasn't until I moved her in that I learned that she was actually schizophrenic. That was what was behind a lot of her issues over the years. And so I would call it a cautionary tale, but also a very upbeat tale about the responsibilities we have to our parents when they've been such inspirations to us. I credit my mother with making me become an animal rights activist since I was a kid. And so I certainly felt like I needed to take her in and look after her in her declining years, even though I would never really call myself a family person. And so it's kind of it doesn't come out till August. It's coming out internationally on Simon & Schuster. But any of us who wonder what the hell we need to do with our parents when they can no longer look after themselves, it's a pretty funny take on that. So that's my new memoir coming out in August.
All right, well, we look forward to it. My daughter Kiki, who you met, she says that her furry animal companion is getting her through this.
That's right. That's right. Now is the time where we really have to bond with our animals, and I think so many people are realizing that. So many people have adopted animals as a result of being stuck at home, and I think learning from where the whole COVID-19 disease spawned, learning how it came from animals. I think this is a real powerful time for people to recognize how important animals are in our world and how irresponsible we've been with them, and how easy it would be to change around and be kinder to animals, not eat them, not wear them, and just have a more, better functioning world, frankly.
Well, I think we're going to have a lot of dysfunctional animals when we all go back to work and they're like, what happened to my human? Where'd they go? They were here all day. Now they're gone. Where are they? Because, the dogs and cats, they spend a lot of time at home alone. We got to face it. Not everybody's home during the day to walk their animals. And now everybody's home all day long. My dog is always wanting to go for a walk now. Let's go.
It's great. It's great. And I'm sure there's a lot of cats thinking, will you get the fuck out?
All right, I'm going to take one more question from Pete Wass. Are there any celebs that go out of their way to be a pain in PETA's ass?
Yes, there have been. There have been some celebrities who I think have found it, Kid Rock, who I was friends with when he was married with Pamela, and who opened his mind a little bit for a while, who some reason feels like it's part of his shtick to talk about hunting and killing animals. And I think it's kind of an old school thing. People live and people learn. I certainly try to keep my mind open because people change. We're all a work in progress. And no matter what celebrity says some stupid, inane thing, whether it's Kim Kardashian or Jennifer Lopez, who's been one of the last people to cling on to her fur coats, I think that they are all a work in progress. And I think they just need to do some soul searching. So it's easy to get in a pissing match, but I try to avoid that because I think, sometimes I've gotten to know some celebrities who really evolved themselves and came around. And I think that kind of is the same for all of us.
Yeah, and probably the most powerful. I got one more question here that I thought was relevant from Matt Laz. Has SeaWorld improved their practices at all over the past couple of years? I see you doing a lot more positive PR.
Well, SeaWorld agreed finally, after years and years of campaigning, agreed to stop breeding orcas. We just a few months ago got them to agree to stop using dolphins as surfboards and riding on them in their shows. But now they've got to take the final step and let their orcas go to seaside sanctuaries. There's a seaside sanctuary that just opened up or is about to open up in Canada. There's places for these brilliant, magnificent marine mammals to go and live some life as nature intended without being confined into a concrete chlorinated pool.
Right.
And once we get there, then we'll be a lot happier. So it's still got a ways to go.
Yeah, but the world's changing, I think, slowly. I think that, this pandemic has definitely knocked everybody off their game. We're all reeling and trying to figure out what the new normal is going to be. And it doesn't help that we don't have any real leadership in Washington. So it's people like you that are stepping up, and people that it's the humans that are stepping up, because the people they act like a bunch of aliens. They look like I can't believe the things coming out of people's mouths nowadays.
Right. Well, it's a good time for reflection. It's a good time to figure out how to be better human beings. And Lord knows if we don't, I say Lord knows as if I'm a Christian.
Well, you're a Southern, so that's not.
That's right. No, we all have to, have some time. I think we all need to take some time to reflect on how to be better people, and especially with regards to how we treat animals.
Yeah, well, keeping us out of the bars and out of any kind of way to be decadent. I mean, we're kind of isolated now with all our own peccadillos in one little house with each other, trying to not step on anybody's toes. So it's been a very interesting time. Dan, you are a saint in my life. We've had a great relationship for decades now.
It's always a lot of fun seeing. We have to keep it going. I can't believe it's been over 20 years now. That's awesome.
It's absolutely. And I want to thank you. All my guests want to thank you for your work and your activism, and for being there for us and for all the little critters that don't have a voice. So
my pleasure. Thanks so much.
And we'll talk to you soon, and keep up the good work. And we'll be looking for your book come out in August.
You got it. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. See you, Dan. Ladies and gentlemen, not every day can be a joke. Sometimes you got to deal with the serious things in life. And what's happening in our world right now is a direct result of our diets and the meat. And my little daughter, Olivia, I saw her chime in here because, they always like to bust dad's chops. Maybe Jeff will go vegan. And then I see my friends, he likes a cheesesteak from the White House. But you know what? Cheesesteaks, and red meat, not good for my gout. I got the gout. Not good. So maybe it's time for me to clean it up, Travis, Larendine, my buddy down in New Orleans, doing all that fine work with the Sofa King, raising money for New Orleans musician. Dan is the man. It's amazing the people I've met over my life and what they've done. I mean, you think about what's happening with PETA. Fur is no longer in the fashion industry. You know, they're changing it. Allison, sending out a shout here to Drew Katz and Jason Weinstock. Kiki Pink's been we do Ryan Heffington's dance class. It's really big in the house. Everybody's dancing around like a gay man in my house, and it's pretty humorous. So thank you, Mark Newey. Great show. Jeff, you're pulling some great shots out of your collection. You're watching from the gate, which would be Margate. Nina loves a good cheesesteak and spicy tofu peanut sauce noodles. I don't know what to tell you. If you're a veg, if you're vegan or vegetarian, no, there's no room for you to be eating like, oh yeah, look, I'm a half vegetarian, because half my meal had peanuts and tofu in it, and the other half was a steak. You either eat meat or you don't, you know. So I'll tell you, Nichols with this comment about Morrissey. I have a funny story when I was at Coachella. Oh, speaking of Coachella, most of you people would be arriving to Coachella now. Not you people, because you're probably too old, but any of you youngsters out there and music biz people would be going out to the desert right now, to the Coachella Valley to see the festival. So these are the things that are starting to cancel that were the first things to cancel. So my heart goes out to all you trendsetters and Instagrammers out there that aren't going to have any new content. Use your content from next year. It's last year. It's the same shit all the time. So Coachella's this weekend. Let's see. Who else chimed in here? We've had some chimes. Yes, you can watch the Coachella documentary out tomorrow. No, Ryan Heffington's dancing around the house, and then we're all dancing like him, and he's like a 40-year-old gay man, and he's kind of flamboyant. So there's a lot of arms swinging and prancing. If you haven't seen Ryan Heffington, Matt Carey, you owe it to yourself. DJ, you're going to order a burger? Okay. Knock yourself out. I don't care if you get the Corona. Kiki, she is my guru right now. She's all over my diet. Eat less meat. I hear you. TMZ, yes. TMZ needs me on there. Thanks, Leanne. And you rule too. I hope you took care of your situation. Todd, I might have missed my true calling, but I'm not going to be taking a picture for a long time. So this might be my new gig. I'm working on some things in the background here, talking to my friends at all the great agencies. Thank you, Seth. Oh, Seth, I wanted to talk about one of the people that sent me some stuff, you know, because people were sending me stuff. And we're going to talk about Solo Pipe Venice. And this is a pipe that was sent to me because, as you know, this is a 420 show. Now we're totally off the PETA thing. And it's a really cool pipe. It has a little cover on it. You see a cover, and then your stash goes in there, and then you push it on the side, and boom, perfect. This is for your one-armed potheads out there, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody that doesn't have an arm to hold a lighter and a bowl. This is really handy. Solo Pipe Venice, and you know what? They are $42 right now, usually $70 if you buy them on the site. Solo Pipe Venice, you can see it right there, and very handy. Comes with all the tools you need, a little carrying case. This is not a paid advertisement. My friends gave me this, and they're like, check this out. And I brought it home, and I shared it on just showing people online, and everybody was like, what the hell is that? How do I get one of those? So Solo Pipe Venice. And tomorrow I'll break out my new sponsor. Oh, speaking of tomorrow, our guest for tomorrow, you're probably wondering who it is. It is Grateful Dead archivist David Lemieux. Lemieux. Make sure you say that right. The Grateful Dead have an amazing release coming out tomorrow. And we're going to talk to my boy, Mr. Lemieux. Let's see. It is the GD Concert Video Stream series at 5. So at 5 o'clock tomorrow, West Coast time, David Lemieux is launching the Grateful Dead live series. It's on Friday nights. They're going to show old shows, which is great because I'm sick of seeing the Dead and Company stuff. I want to see some old school Grateful Dead we haven't seen. And he's going to come on and give us a little quick rundown for like 20 minutes before he goes live to do his show, because he's a saint and a great friend of mine. And I really look forward to talking to him. And he will, you know, every day is an adventure. This week, Chris Carota, Paulie Shore. I mean, my head's exploding with the just love that we've gotten here on the show. And from everybody out there. And I have a lot more great requests out to talk to people. If you're a friend of mine and you think you got something, you got to have some real game though, because it's not anything. Yes, the future of entertainment is right here at 410 live every day on the 420 live show. Anyway, I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each others out there. It's raining today in LA. It's a great day just to stay in and eat your canned soup. I know you have all those canned goods. If you don't eat them during the pandemic, they're going to sit there. So make sure you eat your canned goods. Also, second night of Passover, if you didn't open the door to Eliyahu, like I said yesterday, it's probably a good idea you keep it shut again tonight. You never know what's going to come in the door. Happy Pesach to my friends that celebrate, my loved ones. Stay away from the leavened bread. And here comes your hug. Ah! Thanks, everybody. See y'all tomorrow. Peace out.